Hey folks, we're debugging. I'm Demetrius.
My name's Erica.
This is a podcast about us talking about technical things and bringing a bunch of random tangential conversations into it, like Depeche Mode. But we're
Yes.
calling it Debug Mode
Debug Mode, which is almost as cool. We need to get t-shirts.
and tour dates.
And tour dates, of course. We need tour dates.
Yeah.
Amazing. We'll work on that.
Well, let's debug Composer 2.
Are we going to do that first?
I like that idea.
You'd like to do that
All
first.
right,
We'll
all
talk
right.
about the other MCP situation later then.
The MCP situation. The RIP MCP.
Yeah, there's literally like an event tonight in New York
Celebration
celebrating
of
the
life.
life of MCP.
So classic. That is great marketing.
I mean, there are probably people who will go.
I bet there's a lot of people that are going to go.
Maybe they're free food.
That might be what draws the people.
And
Free drinks.
or maybe it's like a wake and they're going to go and look at the body to see if it's actually dead.
Pay their respects.
Yeah.
Throw some flowers on the grave.
Exactly. Maybe it's like an Irish wake.
Yeah.
Go upstairs.
But Composer 2.
Composer 2, I was so excited about Composer 2. Like, I was so happy about Composer 1.5. And then so soon after Composer 2 came.
Well, there was a little drama around it because they got called out for using which model underneath the hood? I think it was a GLM or it was a min-max.
Dude, I have no idea. I'm
You
just
didn't
a
see
very
that?
happy user.
Ah.
I did not look into the drama.
Yeah, so they RL'd some model. I can't remember if it was min-max or if it was the GLM model.
Okay.
And they didn't give any credit to that model.
Okay.
And then folks discovered that it was just a base model plus some RL.
Okay. Well, is that wrong?
I guess no, because it's an open source model, but not specifically giving credit might be a little shady.
Yeah. I don't know what they're like, if it's open source, what the licensing is and etc. But I do like
Yeah.
giving credit where credit's due, though.
Yeah.
I care deeply about open source, but I do care more than giving credit. I care about the users of open source giving back to the open source community, because that is the most important currency in open source.
Yeah. It does beg the point that, all right, you use an open source base model and then you slap on your RL and now it's no longer open source and then you're charging for it. That in a way parallels like, oh, we have an open source or an open core product and then our enterprise version is
Yeah.
with these extra features.
To like address your use case.
Yeah.
So
I could see it.
you can either do it yourself or you can pay someone to do it.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a good model.
Well, I enjoy using it.
It's cheap.
It's cheap.
It's
It's
fast.
fast. I love fast. I'm really into fast. That may be like my impatience, like really shining through. But like, sometimes I get bored with Opus 4.6.
Because it's too slow.
Yeah,
But you've figured out a nice little workflow
yeah.
with how you're using it.
At least it works for me, right? So I like planning. I actually didn't used to pay so much attention to planning
Mhm.
because because I'm impatient.
But you're using Composer to plan?
Okay, so I do like using Opus 4.6 to plan because it's kind of faster planning actually
Yeah.
in comparison to like writing loads and loads and loads of code. Even if you're doing it like with sub agents, it can get slow. So I like planning with Opus, and then I like also reviewing it with Composer, and then come back to Opus to see what he thinks. So I actually have them write like markdown files
Mhm.
to comment on what they think about it as
Oh.
well.
And then they'll read each other's
Commentary,
thoughts. Yeah.
thoughts. I mean, like Composer 2 is a thinking model.
Yeah.
It has thoughts. Does it have feelings? Who knows? But I do like the back and forth though, because, you know, we spoke a little bit about this earlier on a completely different topic, you and I, but I
Yeah.
used to be an engineering manager. And to be fair, one of the most wonderful things of having a team is that they are talking to each other and they
Mm.
exchange ideas, and it's not just one person making all the decisions.
Yeah, and they have different compositions of how they're attacking a problem, and so
Yeah.
they see things differently and they execute on they
Yeah.
code differently.
And the other thing, maybe this is also like an engineering manager trait that I've picked up on that I just apply to agents. But have you ever done this where you have a plan and you ask your team, what can go wrong with this plan?
Mm.
You've done the exercise, possibly.
Yeah.
And that sort of how will this plan fail exercise?
Yeah. Or
is-
what are we not seeing here?
Yeah. I think I started asking the agent that, like, how will this plan fail?
Ah.
And how will it go wrong? Like, because I'm going to build a software that I'm going to deploy it in this type of environment. What's going to fail with this plan?
Yeah. So you ask that, you get the back and forth
Yeah.
happening, and then you throw it into YOLO mode or grind mode.
Yeah, I love grind mode. Okay, so I'm a big fan of the cloud hosted agents.
Yeah.
Because
You just kick them off and go grab dinner or go to sleep. Yeah.
and see it
Binge a
tomorrow.
series. Yeah. Whatever it is you do.
Yeah, and I think it's really fun, and especially with Composer and Cursor, and just like leave it overnight and see what comes back the next day, and then try it out. Does it work the way you want it to? Read the code. Do you read the code? It's a good question.
That is the fascinating one. Do you read the code or do you only read the plans? How do you read it? Because there, as I was mentioning, there was a great talk from Dex that we recently had at our conference, and he was saying, hey, look, here's everything we got wrong in the last 6 months. I used to say, don't read the code, only read the plans. And now you definitely got to read the code. Just the important part is that you don't outsource the thinking and you make sure you understand what you want. And sometimes if the plan is very long, then it is more efficient to read the code because the code is as long as the plan.
Yeah. Yes, definitely depends. But I do think it's really important to read the plans. So I think there are sometimes people look at it as an either or. Do you read the plan properly and do you iterate on the plan properly, or do you then just go and iterate on the code? And I do think you need to do both.
Yeah.
Like you have to iterate on the plan. The first plan is normally wrong.
And when you're troubleshooting things that aren't executed properly after that first night of grind mode,
Yeah.
you're executing them on the plan or the code?
So now we have something that hopefully runs. If it doesn't run, we have a big problem. Then we have to actually get an agent. This is why I'm lazy. Get an agent to figure out why doesn't it run. Now we have to look at the problems. But now we're getting to code review mode. And to be fair, I can code review, but I also like the agent's code review.
Yeah.
And we get all of the perspectives of how it can be better. One of the most interesting things that I find is the amount of code duplication that still happens, even though I have skills. So, like clean architecture and clean code, those books.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got like skills for those.
You created them or they were on? Oh, nice.
Because
cool.
I really like those books. And I think there's a lot of important learnings in them. So despite that, which should reduce code duplication, well, that's one of the things that are discussed in those books. I still see the duplication. And that refactor, if you've ever gone through refactoring code, it's a nightmare. Because actually detangling the dependencies is harder than just writing it all again.
Yeah.
So reviewing and how you would do it better and going through that both with your perspective and agents that are reviewing it, I found that it's faster to just let it then run over another night and write it from scratch. Like, you don't want the agents that's writing overnight to have context of the code that was written.
Oh, so you can't bias them with any preconceived notions.
And because you don't want the code that was there, because clearly there are issues with it.
Yeah.
And you don't want it to be in the context of what you're now kicking off. So I really like that personally, because I think you can iterate quite fast, and I do like the overnight just kicking something off.
Yeah, this reminds me of so many times that I've thought about just how throwaway code is now.
Oh yeah, you said like ephemeral code
Yeah.
once, and that really resonated with me.
It's exactly that. Like, we can have more success just throwing everything out and
Yeah.
starting new rather than refactoring.
Yeah, because refactoring is really, really painful.
Yeah.
And it's actually really token expensive.
But there's some folks that don't have the luxury of doing that, right? I wonder if there is a certain point or different areas that you get into that you just say, you know what, like I would love to throw away my whole code base, but then
Yeah, no, you can't. Like,
Yeah.
especially if you have really critical systems,
yeah,
you can't just throw it away. You need to do a very surgical refactor.
uh-huh.
And you have to, the risk of rewriting is too high.
It makes me think about the whole thing that you were saying earlier about having very clear sub-agents.
Yeah.
And so you almost want to have a few different sub-agents that are just for refactoring.
Yes. But also, like, you have to have sub-agents that are really good at refactoring. I do find there is an art to refactoring code. So I did something not too long ago where me and a friend were collaborating on a almost entirely vibe coded project. My friend had started, and then I came in and I was like reading the code and I was like, oh my God, this is like spaghetti code.
Yeah.
Sorry. It was spaghetti code, but it was also like so much duplication. And this is what I mean when it takes a lot of context and a lot of like inference cost to refactor. Because the way you have, especially if it's a large code base you're refactoring, the amount of analysis that needs to be done and memorialized into documents, like how does it work right now? How do we want it to look?
Yeah.
How do we want to re-architect it? It's probably the most expensive thing I've done in terms of token usage. And I managed to cut off like almost 100,000 lines of code without removing any functionality. But keep in mind, this was expensive.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, but this was not a critical system. Like, this could have been rewritten, right? In hindsight, that's one of my learnings from that was...
Just start from scratch.
Especially if it's not critical. If it is critical, like, spend your tokens mindfully. Like, don't think the refactoring is going to be cheaper than rewriting.
Yeah. So getting back to Composer 2 then, we had the whole idea of...
way off, yeah.
But I like it. I like the direction we took. You know what, another thing that when you're talking about this whole life cycle, the new life cycle that you have with Composer 2, or first planning with Claude, then Composer 2 editing the plan, and then Claude editing the edited plan, and then grind mode with Composer 2 overnight and looking at it, making sure that it's correct.
Making a new plan.
Yeah, maybe it's making a new plan, or you have to QA it. I've seen and noticed that if you ask the agent to go and basically break the system or QA its own system and then take screenshots of each page and each link and each button that it presses and explain why that is the correct screen that it should be seeing, then you have a little QA bot. So basically you have it write a report after the code is good enough, right? And it's finished with the whole executing in the whole night of grind mode. Then you have the QA agent go through, press every button, press every link, press everything it can, take a screenshot, write a full detailed report of what it sees in each link and button and all of the different paths, and then explain why that's the correct screen it should be seeing. And then if it sees a wrong screen and it finds a bad link or a button that isn't working, it goes back and starts the cycle over again, and it finds out why is this not working, and then it'll fix it.
Oh, but this loop though. Okay, so I haven't done it exactly the way you suggest
Yeah.
here. I ended up in such long hours and hours of loops, and
Because it was just whack-a-mole.
yeah, and
That's
it
a problem.
wasn't actually. This is where I felt like just going back after the first iteration of coding, like properly reviewing the code, and then writing a new plan, because I ended up in a cycle where I was just waiting for hours, and this is where it got really expensive as well. So it is. I like it though. You know what I thought about when you talked about QA is I have, ex-colleagues, people who literally had their entire career in QA. And I've said previously, I think like QA engineering
Yeah.
is a field that needs to grow and be more like appreciated. But I do also believe there's such an opportunity for QA engineers to really define the skills, define like the processes
Yes, exactly.
for this agentic era. And I hope that there are people out there in QA engineering who are really thinking about how they can make their practices and their skills, like their human skills, turn into like agentic skills, and like people can really benefit from, like you said, like clicking all the buttons. Yes, you have QA testers and you have QA engineers. So I used to work with some people like QA engineers, like they would literally be building test processes out.
Yeah.
And I feel like that must be so fun now with the agentic era to be a QA engineer, like building agents that test stuff.
Well, another one that I've seen is that you'll create 5 different variants of agents that are in grind mode, and what those agents build overnight is only accepted. So you have the 5 agents, they build 5 different of the same product,
they
right?
got the same goal.
Yeah, the same goal, and you only accept the one that passes the most tests. So you split off all of these sub-agents to go and build that plan, and the ones that build it the best are, in theory, going to pass the tests that are created.
That's like, okay, but what if they all pass all the tests?
If they all pass all the tests, then you've got 5 different ones that you can go from.
Like pick your
I guess you got to
favorite.
write better tests, probably, or you got to think about different edge cases. But they might pass the test because they just deleted the tests. That's another thing you got to watch out for.
Or like rewriting the test to be different. For like, oh, no, actually, this is not, like I've seen that. Like, oh, the code isn't doing this, so the test is wrong.
Yeah.
Honestly, okay, this is a side story, but it's very relevant to how agents behave in these situations. So my brother once, he was working on a project at universities, mechanical engineering. Okay, so you have these big machines that can accurately like cut metal, etc. And literally it's almost like 3D printing.
Yeah.
You put in and it, cuts it up, cuts the metal pieces up. Okay, so my brother though, he comes into this workshop and he sees this guy who's like grinding down, like filing down this measuring thing that you measure like little millimeter stuff with. And my brother goes like, why are you filing it? And he's like, because it's wrong. And there's like, this happened for real, because he said, well, the machine I put in that it was supposed to say be like 3 millimeters, and this one says it's like 3.5, so this one's wrong. And that's like what agents are doing.
Yeah.
They file down the measuring to make it fit.
Exactly. They have their own rules, and they'll delete tests. They'll file down the different pieces.
So like he's just filing it, and I was like, that's so funny, because he trusted the machine so much to have cut it correctly
that the measuring tape now doesn't. It's not valid. That must have been coming out of the factory wrong.
Yes, but it was so funny though. Like when you have so much trust in the software, in the machine. And maybe sometimes we can have a bit too much trust in agents. Some people are just very skeptical, so I think it's probably a personality thing. But it is interesting though. Like, how can okay, people are writing tests though, and I think this is really important if you're ever going to use things like grind mode with a composer too. Like, what? Are you writing them by hand, or are you getting an agent to write them?
Well, that's the big debate, right? I know folks that say, as long as I write the tests, I'm cool with the agent doing everything else. because if it can pass the test, then it's good. I know that I've properly thought through all the
Yeah.
edge cases, which there's a whole nother conversation there.
Yeah.
But I could see that. I think writing tests is quite taxing on us as humans.
Yeah.
And so it's much easier. And I generally just say, write all the tests, use these skills
Yeah.
that will explain different ways of making sure that the test is robust.
Yeah.
And then it's off to the races.
I don't write my own tests. I'll
This
have to
is
be
a
honest.
total, what is it?
It's
Confession. It
yeah.
is.
This is confession. I don't write my own tests. But because I had this conversation with someone a while back. People were taught bad test-driven development
Oh,
anyway.
why
and
is
they-
that?
Because people write a lot of unit tests for test-driven development. I mean, if you are writing the unit tests, you are literally writing the code, pretty much. Like, you are thinking about it down to that little component.
Uh-huh.
Okay, unit tests are great for making sure that you don't have, key interfaces that break, to make sure that after you've established something, you don't break things in the future. However, TDD, test-driven development, probably lends itself much better to larger integration tests, because that is actually the impact on the end user. Assuming you're building a system, whether it's an end user as a human or you are exposing APIs or whatever, like integration tests at the consumer perspective, like the actual product you're delivering,
Yeah.
that is not as taxing as trying to write a bunch of unit tests.
I see. So you're thinking about it at the wrong abstraction if you're writing a bunch of unit tests.
I think you should have unit tests as well for key interfaces that are important, like, because you don't want them. That's how you keep humans and agents in proper check while they're editing code, right? But integration tests are incredibly important to ensure things are hanging together.
Yeah.
Yes, they can be really hard to debug, to understand what went wrong, but they shouldn't be that many, and they should be closer to business outcomes.
Okay, so I distracted you on the humans writing test-driven development have been doing that wrong.
I think it was something we're told we had to do, and the amount of code coverage checks that have been on repos, etc., like at work. Like, I remember they're like, oh, you have to have at least 80% test coverage.
Yeah.
To be fair, you should have test coverage of your code, but you need all the code paths to be covered. Okay, an integration test goes through way more code paths than a unit test does.
Huh.
Right? It should ideally, if you have good enough integration tests that test their variations, ideally it will cover your code base. Because if you have code that never gets executed by your integration tests, like your bigger tests, they should simulate anything you're delivering to clients. If you have code that never gets hit, what's the code doing there?
Yeah. It's just dirtying up the code base.
It's not being used,
Yeah.
clearly. Not for anything you intend it to be used for, so why is it there? It is harder to measure code coverage with an integration test,
Uh-huh.
because sometimes integration tests even span multiple components in a decomposed system. So that's really hard. But yeah, anyway, I think it's so tricky. I do get my agents to write unit tests because then it looks cute.
Yeah.
It does.
But really, the things that, you should be focusing on, or I guess not focusing on, the real attention you should be paying is on those integration tests that the agents write and making sure those are
And I think
passing.
this is where it gets so exciting with the quality engineering, though, because the quality engineers, if there are any people I know who are really good at creating proper product tests, actual,
Yeah, it's the
They-
QA folks.
they know the QA engineers, and honestly there are tools out there that software engineers, just pure software engineers, are not that familiar with. That's why, again, I think the quality engineers, they got to enter that conversation and really bring their skills to the table and help people in this agentic coding era, because I think they've got important skills to share.
One common pattern I've been seeing that kind of fits this narrative, or it helps the quality engineering, is having an adversarial agent and making sure that anything that happens, you have an agent that is basically trying to not do the opposite, but do wrong to the system, so that you are getting that adversarial view. And I've seen it take shape in many different ways. It can be something as benign as like, oh, we don't do these things because of XYZ, or I'm coming with a different perspective, like we were talking about earlier. Or it can be very malicious and trying to actually break the system, delete databases, that type of stuff.
Would this like be, you think, like a coding agent that's like rogue developer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like anytime there's code that comes through, you have that adversarial agent trying to misuse like the code.
Yeah, okay. So I just remember like the chaos monkey thing, which, you know, but that's
similar to that vibe. Yeah,
but
same kind of theory. That's true. Chaos monkey does bring a little bit of that, but that's just turning things off and on, or having a theory of if our traffic spikes 5x over here in this region, are we going to be able to handle it? Or if we lose some nodes over here, can we handle it? It's that same vibe, but
even like can put it into the code production process. Like, how does your checks and balances and quality controls withstand something that's trying to like literally mess it up?
Yeah, it's almost like a little upstream in a way.
Or downstream. I'm always confused with this side.
Or shift left or shift right. Which one are we doing here?
I don't know. Like you know what? Like the water flowing and stuff, and not my like
physics. That's not my strong suit.
And also, it being English doesn't help.
Because you drive on the left side of the road. Is that what it is?
No, I mean like, I think it's
the right side of the road, don't you?
I mean, like being the non-native English speaker. I do find that hard.
Yeah. So, all right. It's getting hot in here.
We
should talk about CLIs
we should
and
do that.
MCP and all that fun stuff.
Okay, let me tell you something though first.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the most exciting thing in the world of Claude Code happened, right? Like, and we got insight into what was happening on the inside.
Because the harness leaked. The whole internal nuts and bolts of Claude Code.
Little agent friend. Yeah, but it's quite interesting though, because MCP, created by Anthropic, like, you know, touted, is that the right word?
We could go with that word. I
don't
like
know if
that.
That's the right word.
Touted as the savior.
Yeah, like this is how we're going to interact with tools.
Agentic interfaces,
Yeah, like give your agents tools. And then we find out yesterday that Claude Code ain't using MCP for its tools. Right?
What's it using then? What do we got?
It's just native in TypeScript.
Yeah.
You know what? It's not even Rust or Python.
I would expect as much.
Well, it's TypeScript, right? So they have the native tools like for checking the files, etc. And it's not using like a CLI either. It's literally native built in to the agent, right?
Presumably there's a reason. They probably tested a bunch. Or you think they were just moving so fast and they were like, well, good enough. Let's just keep it.
I think it's the right architecture for anyone building something like that.
Oh, interesting.
That's what I think.
Wait, why?
Because when you, this like very exciting, because I think, you know, it's MCP dad, is this the rise of CLI, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think fundamentally MCP is misunderstood. And I do believe this Claude Code leak really shows us that MCP is misunderstood. Because where in Claude Code does MCP actually show up? It does show up. It's not completely not there, right? It's for your external integrations. For the things where Claude Code or Claude or Anthropic or whatever does not have control of the code. So, makes sense to me. But it also, because I had been building little agent a little while back, and I had ended up with the same architecture with building in these tools natively into the agent harness, if you will. And I was like, oh my God, am I doing it wrong? I thought, should I be using MCP, like turning all these tools into MCP? And I was like, maybe. So.
But this is for you and for your personal projects, right?
There was like a project I was building. So this is not like.
Not exposing it to the world, not
Yeah.
expecting a ton of traffic, all of that fun stuff.
Well, this was literally an agent that, was having its own native tools.
Uh-huh.
And I think this is the exciting part. It's your native tools where you control the client and the server, if you will, not the server, but like you control the entire
life cycle.
Like both sides
Yeah.
of the execution. You can build native tools.
That's the key distinction. When you don't have control over it, that's when you say throw the MCP in.
MCP, yeah. But then you can even argue, okay, now we got to come to the timeline because this is where it gets exciting.
All right. When the first person said MCP is dead and how that narrative took off.
Why are we even talking about MCP being dead? Someone started talking about it. And to be fair, I think, you and I both have said, like, we were a bit, or at least I've said, I was very confused about, like, the point of MCP when it first came around.
Sure.
And then at the end of last year, so second half of 2025, there was lots of little articles coming out, people talking online, but there are two notable articles in the second half. So there's one from Cloudflare, which, if you don't read the article itself, it can look like, yeah, you should be writing TypeScript instead of doing MCP. But actually, if you check inside of the article, they're still talking about writing like scripts to call MCP.
Okay.
So they were not killing MCP, but...
Yeah, well, I remember there was a tweet at some point that came out and said, it's 2025. Can someone please explain to me, with the use of skills and CLIs, why would I ever use MCP?
Yeah, and I think, yes, I saw those things, but I think it's also so interesting that we pitted CLIs and MCP against each other.
Yeah, which it's apples to oranges. Completely.
It's very different because, well, we're going to why that is different. And then the other thing that happens, right, is that Anthropic has an article that comes out in, I got here, November 4th, 25, that again talks about how they don't necessarily use MCP directly for their agents either, right? But again, similar to what Cloudflare was talking about, is having code that then interacts with MCP.
Well, and I remember when that came out, one thing that in that article and folks started saying was a lot of the MCP servers out there are written pretty bad.
Yes.
And so it's not just that MCP doesn't work as a blanket statement.
Yeah.
It's the wrong kind of MCP servers that you're calling, or the wrong tools that you're trying to use through MCP can really hurt your execution.
And I think that's so interesting, especially giving me flashbacks to like API design overall, to be fair, like...
Which you've done a little of.
I've done too much of, but there is an art to it.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay, what happens though? Like, what really...
kicks it off.
Makes us... So, in New York City today, there is that, like, event. MCP's dead, blah, blah, blah. It's like a wake or whatever.
Yeah, the celebration of life for MCP, which I find hilarious because tomorrow is the MCP Dev Summit.
Yes. Maybe we're going to a funeral. Who knows?
Yeah.
No.
But there's like 1,300 people that are coming to this event tomorrow, the conference tomorrow, not the memorial service tonight. Yeah.
But the interesting part here, though, is what really accelerates it is the beginning of this year, and even now in the last month.
Yeah.
So Perplexity, right, which is a leader when it comes to AI and so forth, like at the conference, goes it's like, we ditched MCP. We're not going to do that. We're just going to use APIs because.
The CEO came out and said that.
Yeah, not in those exact words that I used, but the gist was, we ain't using MCP.
Yeah.
And
it's bloating our context. Yeah. It's not giving us the bang for the buck that we're looking for.
Yeah. It's like adopting this tool and using it, it's costing a lot of money. I think there's some crazy stats on like saving. So then everyone like, okay, we are super validated in our feelings. So validated. And even like Gary Tan was his name, right? He was also super validated. So he like jumped on it. I'm like, okay, now we're going to see if I can go to my photos and just get that tweet up, because the screenshot world, not
Yeah.
Google Photos, though, we're going to the Apple Photos. So, so he says, MCP sucks, honestly. That's like the first line. And it's ultimately about how it's too much context eats up. And then he says he got sick of Claude in Chrome via MCP, and he vibe coded a CLI wrapper for Playwright in 30 minutes in an evening. So I think what's really interesting there, right, is then it was just more people saying that.
Piling on.
And I do think that that tweet specifically from Gary Tan is about where he mentions the CLI is what really puts them, again, clearly.
And this was March 16th, right? This was fairly recently.
Yeah, so the March 11th was when Perplexity CTO or co-founder said it. And then Gary Tan, because me and X are not great friends in UX, I cannot see exactly, but he reposts that. So it can't be long after.
And right around this time, I saw an incredible blog post that was basically saying MCP is dead, long live MCP, which goes through all the reasons that folks are saying, oh, well, MCP doesn't work anymore, CLIs are all you need, blah, 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 but debunks that and talks about how, okay, you've got progressive disclosure, or you've got the agent searching around and progressively going deeper and deeper into the CLI. And if the CLI is not trained, if the agent is not trained on the CLI's data, then it doesn't understand or know, and it ends up using just as much context. And the funniest part of that whole blog post is like, so it's just continuously searching for all these tools and specifications and all this stuff that it's going to use. That sounds a lot like MCP schema to me.
Yes.
And you're like, all right, well, what are we really doing here? What is it? We're just hopping on a bandwagon?
And people, I think because people were frustrated with MCP, it just felt so liberating to hear people like in leadership positions saying that it wasn't working for them. Because then felt like, well, it's not working for me and it's not working for them. And that feels good, right?
Yeah. But this goes back to that whole idea of maybe it's a bunch of crap MCP servers that got set up versus really trying to think through the design of how you're creating it and saying, all right, instead of, if I'm creating a Slack MCP server, do I need to have 50 million tools, or should I try and abstract the intention and make those the tools? And so almost looking at a tool as, what do I actually want to get done? Versus X tool, Y tool, Z tool, and I need to call all of those together to send a message.
Yeah. I do think that one of the cleanest MCP server like designs is to just have two tools. Is to find action and execute action. So that also makes your MCP like spec for your MCP server super light and super dynamic, because you can add functionality to your MCP server that is just discoverable through the find action tools. So you literally have two tools, and what's neat about it is you can literally make any MCP server just like that. But I mean, we have with all skills. I think like it's kind of sad the skills sort of are not part of the conversation, because skills is really cool. And I think the two best skills are like find skill and
use skill.
Write a skill, right? Create a skill.
The self. Well, you do have skills being part of the conversation in that I create skills that help my agents use MCP servers.
That's an sane sort of conversation, right? But also you can have skills that use CLIs, right? So, but I do think skills are super important when it comes to context load and making sure your agents are effective. However, as someone like me who comes from having worked in enterprise environments and regulatory environments, it's quite tricky to think about, how you would, when I try to like go all in on CLI in that perspective, imagine I just did CLI. Imagine all my agents just called APIs directly, whether it was REST or REST-ish, or whether it was gRPC, or whether it was GraphQL or whatever. Like, just think about it in that perspective. Like, and they can write their own code, by the way, these agents, because, you know, that was cool. Like, get agents to write their own code. So they're going to write their own code and going to call things automatically, smart agent. And it's also going to install CLIs automatically because it's going to find them and install them, right, on the machine.
You're giving me some serious anxiety now. If
like-
you've got a bank that is just letting agents loose inside of their code base and allowing it to do that, I understand where you're going. You're saying in a regulatory environment,
This is getting very complicated.
and it's just a cause for a lot of headache.
I mean, like, even just the idea of having anything, like, forget about agents. But if you work in a regulated environment, or even an enterprise environment isn't heavily regulated, the idea of you saying, hey, I want to have a virtual machine and
Where I
want
can
to
install
things on the fly
Yeah.
and have access to the internet, ideally, because I need to pull things from the internet to install them. And yes, we are not going to run that through the image scanning or dependency scanning stuff we have established for years, because, you know, vulnerabilities don't exist. And right, so the tricky part here, though, is like the beauty we have when we are running agents on our own personal computers, we can give them a lot of access, control, and we have a sense of supervision that they're more like an extension of us rather than a separate agent.
Yeah.
And therefore, I feel like when we see CLIs, we're like, I use CLIs, so it makes sense that my agent uses it too, because it's an extension of me. I don't use MCP, but that's more a philosophical thing. Like, why is this comfort that, like, something I've been thinking about.
So you think of the PSYOP on us? This whole CLI is better?
I think it may be because it's comfortable to a certain degree, right? And it's not just about context being smaller, but there's a different, you know, perspective, like what makes it so attractive. By the way, I prefer the GitHub CLI over the GitHub MCP server. Like, if for agents I have running on my machine, yes.
Well, I think that's one thing that is very clear, is that if you're doing it for yourself, you've got a lot more leeway to play around with.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it for A, regulated environment, or B, exposing it to the world and expecting a lot of traffic and needing the auth, I understand that folks are like, oh, the auth is so painful, and that's one of the gripes.
Auth is getting better though with MCP, because Okta and Anthropic are now like working together to sort out the auth situation.
There you go.
Like, I'm quite excited about that. And
you can't have a tool that doesn't have auth.
Yes. No, like, you need it.
And yeah, that's kind of a big part of, especially in a large enterprise scenario.
You need auditability as well. Like, you need to know, like, in large enterprises, we're obsessed, and especially regulated environments, like which human did anything.
Yeah.
Of course, we are curious about which agent did anything and exactly what were they authorized to do. But like, what to me is really interesting is that it's not wrong what Perplexity did. It was the right thing for Perplexity. And also, as we see with the code leak, if you will, of Claude Code, it makes sense that Claude Code is not having all of the tools it uses all the time, repeatedly, is not over MCP, because that would be too slow, too cumbersome, doesn't make sense. It's not so much about context bloat, actually, at that point. But think about it. If you were doing MCP, that's literally a HTTP request. You're now doing network calling, and you are decoupling your system.
And there's no point.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you can get the standard in and out stuff, but like, just that interaction, the I/O that you're dealing with, doesn't make sense if you want a fast. Even though I did say earlier in our conversation when we talk about, you know, models, etc. You know, Opus 4.6. Sometimes we ain't friends because I'm too impatient. But Claude Code is fast, and it is fast because all of the native tools that it does to interact with files, write files, edit, etc., is inside of itself. Like, it's the same thing if you write any code. Like, making internal, like, function or method calls is faster than calling a service over the network.
Yeah, just to get that same outcome.
Yeah,
It's too much overhead.
exactly. So you do like bring it into the same runtime. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And for me, that is not crazy. And Perplexity wants to be fast with how it interacts with all of its own tools. Because keep in mind, what Perplexity did was to not use MCP inside of its own system,
Yeah.
right?
Key distinction.
It
That
has
is
control.
true. Yeah.
It has control of both sides of the code.
Wait, so you had some metaphors that
I
you
do
wanted to
always
bring
have
up?
metaphors.
I know. I love your
Always.
metaphors.
So
Last time we chatted, you had a great restaurant
yeah,
metaphor. And
I think we should go back
you-
to the restaurant.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay, so
we can
quick
start that.
TLDR on the last restaurant metaphor we were talking about.
Networking and Envoy and handling AI traffic.
Yeah.
But this restaurant's a bit different.
Okay. What's this restaurant?
Oh, we can still serve the same foods. I think we're doing pizza or pasta.
Yeah.
And we can
Italian.
still, yeah.
Classic Italian.
Yeah, I like Italian. You know, whether it's healthy or not is a different question. But I like it. So let's go to the Italian restaurant. But
yeah, hopefully you're not gluten-free.
I'm not gluten-free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listener.
Those. I mean, maybe you can have a gluten-free Italian restaurant for them. Yeah.
There's options on the menu.
Yes, on this menu there'll be options. So what's really interesting, we think about a chef. Think about the chef as an agent.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with a small restaurant. You have a chef. And also what's really cool about this chef is that he or she has obviously learned things. Like it can check the temperature of a steak. It can do a white sauce, straight away. It doesn't have to look up a recipe.
Mm-hmm.
The chef knows how to, if you watch Gordon Ramsay and Hell's Kitchen, like the scallops, always a problem, and their risotto. But this chef, they know how to do that. Like this ingrained into them. Like, so think about that as what the LLM may know innately, right? How we have taught it from the world of experience. However, if we now invented a new dish and we're going to add a new dish to a menu, we need to give the chef some information about what this recipe is. Yeah. And maybe you can actually think about this more like a skill. Right? We're not at the MCP part yet. But okay, let's talk about the MCP part. So
where's that come in?
To make this wonderful food, we need ingredients.
Oh.
Right? Okay, so if you have a small little restaurant, neighborhood Italian, or just one, you may be able to negotiate and source all of your ingredients from suppliers, and you don't need a standardized way to do this, because you're not buying that much.
Yeah.
Right? And you have clarity on what you need, how you need it, where you need it, and you can even write bespoke integrations.
Maybe you even just get something from your own garden.
Exactly, like farm to table situation, right? So that's your small restaurant. And I think at the moment, a lot of people who are saying we don't need MCP, MCP is a waste.
They've got the mom and pop restaurants.
And they are small, but they may be wonderfully successful.
Yeah.
By the way, it might be one of the most popular restaurants to go to. So it's not that they're not successful. They're doing amazing things and they're moving fast as well.
Good luck getting a table there.
Yes, can't.
Especially on a Saturday night.
It's a Perplexity restaurant, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. So they don't need that. They don't need that stuff. But okay, so now we want to take our restaurant into a franchise. Exciting. It's successful, so why not? But we've got to maintain quality of our produce. And also, when having all of these restaurants, it becomes an overhead of trying to source all of the different produce from all over the place. And also, again, we want to keep consistency in how we are getting this. So now we get a procurement team. We get an actual team that handles all of the buying, the getting all of the produce and distributing it to our different restaurants, whether it's we have a chain or we have a franchise, whatever it is, we want guests to have a consistent experience. So if they are going in one town or another, they know what to expect. So you can think of that team we put in place for all of our restaurants to interact with, to buy produce.
That's MCP.
That's MCP because we standardized it. We've standardized how to get the other stuff on the other side. Might be messy, right? Might be a bit messy how we actually source all the produce and get it to all the places. But the key part is for the restaurants and the restaurant managers, etc. They do not need to worry about understanding all of the things that comes with finding and establishing the
Making sure
contracts.
it's there on time.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it's an oversimplification, obviously, but I just want to highlight that when you are running something at scale, however boring standardization can seem, it is important to allow people and systems to do what they're good at. And also, again, it becomes this external factor. And I think for me, MCP is not dead. It's been misunderstood and potentially missold,
Yeah.
right? It is not the way you're going to plug in tools to your friendly neighborhood agent.
It's been missold. I like that. Yeah. It's been, the expectations were not properly set.
Yes. And maybe we didn't even really know when it was the appropriate time to use it. Maybe we've learned when the appropriate time to use it was.
As time's gone on, that's true.
Maybe we just learned. Maybe now in hindsight, it seems obvious. But MCP for external integration, when you do not control or own the other side of the code base, to me makes a lot of sense. And honestly, APIs have been so messy over the last decade. And I'm so glad that in a way MCP is bringing the order to APIs that we once dreamed of.
We wish we had.
Yeah, because it does make it all wonderful in the sense that we have better clarity of like functionality discovery. And there is a lot of things happening in the world of MCP as well. So I have so many thoughts, but ultimately, if you are like an enterprise leader and you're like worried about is MCP right for our organization or not, and that's a tricky one, right? I would say don't be afraid of it because I think it may be right for you.
Yeah, because some mom and pop restaurants are saying that they don't use it.
Yes.
They get their basil from the backyard.
Oh, yeah, they're growing it themselves.
Exactly.
Maybe you should too.
Yeah.
But I think it's like also, so it was a KubeCon last week and we had EnvoyCon, which I co-hosted, and Jens from ING, he had a talk there. So if you have opportunity to watch that whenever it's uploaded, he talks about how ING turned all of their, I don't know if it's all of them, but a lot of their APIs into like MCP servers.
Tools.
Yeah, the tools.
A server each or a tool?
So he talks about them as MCP servers.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about MCP servers, and it talks about how they use Envoy proxy to have the translation layer at a proxy level.
Uh-huh.
And that is giving them this opportunity to give agents the access to all of the functionality in a standardized way that makes sense for the agents. And you may be like, well, they do control both sides of the code, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going against what we were just saying.
It seems like it, right? But I think the important part for those who have, if you are working in a large enterprise, you will definitely have the feeling that you are working in multiple small different companies that are trying to collaborate. And you don't have control over both sides, even though as a bigger unit, you may say you do, but you are experiencing a lot of the same boundaries you would as if you were in different companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like, so that is something I've been thinking a lot about. Like, is MCP right then in the context where you own the system? And if you can, so I've gone through, so I used to run an API platform team, and when we acquired a company, we need to integrate with them because why did we even acquire them in the first place? Because we're doing cool stuff. We wanted to use what they were building.
Yeah.
So then APIs were the way we were integrating. But now we want to have agents that even integrate. So you just think about how things grow into this maybe Frankenstein type systems because the acquisitions, etc., over time, and they need to somehow be integrated with each other. Now we want agents to use them too.
Yeah, it reminds me of the data platforms and the data schema and just like data moving around in enterprises, and how the worst thing that you can think is that there's some database somewhere that has the data exactly as you need it, pristine, deduplicated, and clearly articulated in a way that it's like, oh, I just got to find that magical cell and then pull from that. It's like that magical cell does not exist.
Or what if it does though?
keep looking, right? Keep going and looking. That's your task.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, this has been great.
But I think it's like really, to me, fascinating how we sometimes forget the context we're operating in. And we see these other companies and people, leaders, people we look up to, and they tell us that, oh, this is wrong, don't use this, don't do that. And actually, they are not necessarily in the same context we're in.
Yeah.
And I have this little PTSD, maybe, what would you call it? No, that's an extreme way of putting it. But like definitely feeling it from the cloud native, cloud migration days. It's like, oh, we're running everything on Kubernetes, microservices, scalable, everything. Like we're really utilizing infrastructure like properly. And I was like, wow, I need to use it too. I need Kubernetes.
Do you remember that blog post that came out that was something along the lines of "You are not Google"?
No, I haven't seen it, but yeah.
It was a while back, and it basically said, okay, Google puts out some amazing engineering blogs.
Yeah.
But you're not Google. You don't have the resources and the scale that Google has. So why are you trying to build your system like Google?
Like, I think, yeah, exactly. Like, why are you trying to build a system like Google? Or like whatever the situation is, right?
Exactly.
Why are you trying to build your system like blah? And I think a really important piece of advice is go and talk to people who are operating in the same type of environment you are. Like,
what are they doing?
What are they doing? What are the challenges that they are facing? And yes, a lot of these lean startups, AI native startups, should probably be looking at Perplexity, should probably be looking at Anthropic to a certain degree, right? And see how they are building their agents, because it makes sense. But also, please learn anyone from that, because if you can have native tools, have them and use MCP as your external.
Yeah.
And whether external is external, internal, or whatever you want to call it. But just, it sounds really dumb and obvious advice to literally like talk to people who are in your situation.
Oof. Talk to people. That scares me.
Just, it's like, but it is also hard, by the way, in the enterprise space, because the loud people on the internet, it's not the enterprise leaders, architects. They're not the loud people on the internet.
What this whole conversation has proven to me is there's just so much more nuance to the debate. And what you should be doing, whoever you are out there, is thinking through what is right for you in this moment, in your situation, and for your use case. And that's kind of, if you come at it with that, then you'll be fine.
It's also another funny thing. Sorry, I was like, there's so much fun stuff on this topic. But you know how we talked about like how CLIs were like learned by the LLMs, because we literally taught them, especially the GitHub one from Stack Overflow. What is really fun is that if you think about what MCP is, and that MCP as a like protocol, if you will, is getting like the models, like give it 6 months and it's going to be more and more ingrained into the models we are using. And it wouldn't surprise me if the model providers are proactive about this, making sure that MCP is well understood.
It's first-class citizen.
Yeah, like it's well understood. And it's like the same. The reason why the GitHub CLI is so nice to use with an LLM will hopefully be the same reason MCP will be really nice to use with your agents.